I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet. Here with the dude as Golan recuperates. I want to remind everybody right away, please follow, subscribe wherever you download the show. It's very helpful for us. And let's get right to it, dude. It's a Friday afternoon. I usually don't say the day, but it's coming up on the weekend. And I think people have a lot on their minds, including travel. And the government shutdown is starting to directly affect flights. It's going to really start making people's lives a mess. You're a person that travels quite a bit. And while I see Republicans have been winning on this issue because it hasn't directly affected people, wait till it really starts to affect people. And I think both parties will take it.
Well, the president's saying that he thinks that it affected these mayor and governor races that the Republican candidates lost across the board. Now, how much of that has to do with the government shutdown and people feeling the
Was that the
financial
president?
pinch?
Hold on. The president said that?
Yeah. And that's why he's saying he wants to get rid of the filibuster because he said, listen, under Biden, they were talking about getting rid of it. Under whoever's next in the Democrat seat, if they ever take the White House again, they're probably going to get rid of it. So he's like, listen, what are we doing? Why are we playing this game? Let's get rid of it. I don't necessarily agree with him on that, but I hear the argument that he's making. And what he's saying is that unless people feel economically better off than they were under the previous administration, you're going to continue losing races. So it's the economy, stupid, and help out the people by one, ending the government shutdown, but then also touting all of the things and accomplishments that this administration has accomplished thus far. So from that standpoint, I agree with it. And the president laid out a whole bunch of things that he thought was important for the American people to know, like 600,000 Americans were lifted off of food stamps. 600,000 Americans were lifted off of food stamps, not taken off, meaning that they got jobs, they can afford to pay for food themselves, and they don't need food subsidies. That's a huge thing. 1.9 million more American born workers are employed than when Trump took office. That's another big number. Under the previous administration, they kept on reporting jobs, but they were including illegal aliens, migrants, which doesn't help Americans.
But they were also fluffing their numbers. And I just want to make this because I know exactly what data point you're talking about. So there are these two people I know. We all know the president watches Sean Hannity. So you had two pollsters on that were talking about this. And it's funny because when they posted this clip of the reason why Republicans didn't win the other night was because of the shutdown, what they were saying was so factually not true. And the reason I say that is because, and I brought this, I actually I almost never comment on somebody like that's post on a Fox News post, but when you look at the numbers, all the candidates, MEND, were far higher than they were before the shutdown. Now, I'm not saying the shutdown had anything to do with Republicans getting closer in the race, because that would be, I don't have any data to prove that. But the races closed with Mamdani. The Virginia race got closer. New Jersey race got closer. All the races got closer. That's with the shutdown. So I'm telling you where the president got that data from. It was from these two guys that have a polling site, I guess, and they were on Sean Hannity the other night.
Okay, great.
I'm just telling you where it comes from.
It's always good to know sources. So we do want to know the sources. Some other things to consider is that factory workers' pay is up by $1,300 and construction workers' pay is up by $2,200. Thanksgiving meals are going to be 25% cheaper than they were a year ago. Egg prices are down 85%. Energy prices are down, besides if you're in California, because we pay the highest in energy. What Trump was laying out is that, look, I am the candidate, the Republicans are the candidates of prosperity, and the Democrats are the candidates of Mendamni, the socialists that are going to ruin everything and charge you more for everything. So if you want to see what the Democrats are doing to America, said Trump, just look at the results of yesterday's election in New York, where the party installed a communist mayor of the largest city in the nation. After last night's results, the decision facing all Americans should be very clear. We have a choice between communism and common sense. I love that.
Yeah,
I like it that they're pushing that out.
This.
I think we're going to have to help them out and create some infographics and shareable content for this, because this should be going viral. There
But
should be,
here's the problem. I
yeah.
know what he's sharing, and people aren't feeling it. My best gauge for that is for the people on Truth Social that are his most ardent of supporters. They're not feeling exactly what he's talking about. They're not feeling the prices going down at the stores. Now, we live in California, so we're the worst people to gauge anything as far as price goes. So I will have to leave that up to people that are in the Midwest shopping at Walmart or whatever stores they are. And the reason I say that, I'm not saying that we don't have a lot of Walmarts here. You know what I'm saying? In our major cities, we're just not, we don't have many of those stores. So I don't know, man, but I know that here prices have not gone down. So I can't gauge the rest of the country.
Well, across the rest of the country, it has. California just has ridiculous prices when it comes to everything, especially energy and gas for the vehicles. So California is a bad test bed, but California is so far left leaning that it doesn't really matter. But across the country, you might be seeing it on Truth where people are not seeing it yet. First of all, it takes 6 months, at least 6 months, for the people to actually feel it. So around the midterms is when they're predicting that all of the prices will really be in effect and you'll be really be feeling a lot of the good stuff that he's doing now. 6 months to 2 years is what it takes. So I think prices are down in some places, but they need to drive it home. They need to drill it into people. Look, a year ago, this is what you were paying for eggs. We were paying through our nose. We eat 15 eggs in our house every single day.
I know. Listen, I was able to get 18 eggs. I mean, it wasn't the greatest grade of eggs. It was like $2.50. I was like in shock.
Wow. Those must have been from retarded chickens.
No, it was from Target. No, it was cage
The
free.
inbred chickens. You're
It
getting the
was, yeah,
inbreds.
I'll take whatever. I'll take the inbred chickens, but it was down. But listen, they brought up today some very good points. Obviously, the inflation number. But again, here's what I'm going to say to you. This is the conversation we were having yesterday. I agree with you. They're bringing out facts and numbers. They are. When Trump left office, inflation was at what was it, 1.4%, 1.9%. He gave Biden an incredible inflation number. When Trump back in, everything was out of control. There's no doubt about it. And 10 months is not long enough for things to repair. That goes to messaging too. So they're trying to do the message, but again, I go to yesterday, and it's like you have Mele in America. I don't know if you saw this. He was speaking in Miami to a bunch of businesses, and he was giving them a warning about what socialism has done to their countries in South America. He was warning America, saying this is what socialism, this is what communism does. And even him saying that, or anybody saying that, man, I don't know if that message spreads.
It doesn't. I heard uh, the guys from trigonometry talking for a minute, and they were saying that we don't learn from history. We don't.
It was just for the record. You were listening because I want people to understand it. You were listening to Constantine talk about
Yeah,
this.
it
It
was
was Constantine.
Constantine talking.
It was a 10 minute. It was a 10 minute clip of his, which was brilliant.
Super short, and basically what he was saying was we don't learn from history. We learn from previous generations that we can talk to. So we know more about World War II because our grandparents fought in World War II than World War One. We know nothing really about it unless you're a history buff. And these kids that are growing up now and voting for socialists, they don't know. They don't know what the previous generations dealt with when it came to, like, say, the Great Depression or socialism. A lot of people that fled these countries. So warning them doesn't do anything. These people are so ideologically driven, and they believe that the entire world is like it is here. Cushy. The biggest problem is that you don't have enough Wi-Fi signal at a Starbucks. That's your biggest problem in life. And they also believe that they're not getting the same opportunities that previous generations got. So they're willing to go for this socialism thing, not understanding the pitfalls of socialism. It has never worked anywhere. Any place that has tried to implement it winds up like Venezuela or Cuba or Russia or China. I mean, there's so many places where it just absolutely failed. So we're going to find out in New York.
By the way, I just want to tell you something interesting because you're bringing up something, and this is just an off stat, but it's a, in 1950, man, there were 151 million people living in America. Okay, a lot more open space, a lot less people than we have now. You figure now we have about 360 million, 370 million, including illegal immigrants in this country. So in 1950, we've jumped a lot. So it's sometimes an extremely unfair comparison as far as costs and affordability, because those numbers have to be brought into account. And if you have more space, you have more places to build. It's a lot cheaper. And yeah, I just think you're 100% correct. I loved Constantine's video. People know nothing about the Civil War. People know nothing about anything. I mean, when you think about it, man, we live in a generation that doesn't remember 9/11, right?
Yeah, I mean, the city that was brought to its knees by 9/11. I lived just up the block. I was on West Broadway, walking distance to the World Trade Center. Um, we remember it, but these kids voting today don't. They think, oh, having a jihadi as mayor, hey, this is a fun experiment. Let's see where this goes. Okay, you did it. Let's see where it goes.
And that's
I
all
got
like,
my
by the way,
popcorn. I'm sitting back. I'm going to watch the show.
can I tell you something? That's my attitude towards it right now, too. I know there's a person in Congress that wants to ban funding to New York or what it is. That was a bill he's trying to pass. You know what? Let them have at it.
No, I think first of all, I think they should. I think the administration should cease sending funding. You don't send funding to a city that's demanding an extra $200 million to use for legal defense funds
Well,
for
this is something
illegal
totally
aliens.
different. You're talking about something totally different. I'm talking about funding that's already going out. But yes, because you have a
Any
different.
funds that goes to socialist New York is going to be diverted and used for programs that don't align with the values of our country. So no, I don't think we should be sending federal dollars there. Go figure it out on your own. Tax your own people and see how that works out. I know real estate in Miami now is just on fire because everybody's thinking there's a million people thinking about leaving New York or exploring leaving New York. Tennessee, Texas, all of that. Real estate is just on fire because the average New Yorker that has a head on straight and that has money in their bank account isn't going to stick around, get gouged, get assaulted on the streets, have their kids beat up, living in an unsafe environment as you defund the police to wait out 4 years that you possibly get another candidate. Anyone with means is getting out of there. And I've seen it happen here in California, where even some of the people like Tito Ortiz, the ex UFC fighter who was the mayor of Huntington Beach for a minute, and he said, I'm going to stay, I'm going to fight. And eventually he also gave up and moved to Florida. So a lot of people leave. And what happens then is that the tax burden falls on who's left. The people who couldn't afford to leave are going to get taxed even heavier. And why should the federal government subsidize any of that stuff? I don't think they should.
Listen, I don't disagree with you, by the way, and I think it's really important to have these discussions because I believe these are the discussions people are having in their brain. I don't think this is a debate. It's a discussion. I wish more people would have these discussions, these open air discussions of the pros and the cons. And listen, you're bringing up the point of the filibuster and you're sort of getting me to go your way. You're sort of swaying me by the discussions we have. And I really hope, listen, there's some things that obviously nobody we, we're so past the point. But there's some things that are really worth having discussions about how to figure solutions out because I think Republicans need to be doing that. They can't continue to scream, "This is how communism works, and this is how it's going to turn out." That doesn't move the needle at all, man. It just simply doesn't.
Shifting gears a minute, you reminded me of this because I was talking to my brother Neville on our other podcast, and he was convincing me that Trump sending National Guard into Democrat-run cities that are against it is a bad idea. And I gave the whole argument that I gave here. Listen, if you could show the people that there's another way, they don't have to live in squalor and fear, that crime is not the inevitable way. You could have law and order and all of that stuff. You're going to get a lot of people realizing that there is another way and they might vote differently going forward, and not just for the same people that have kept their cities in like hellscape states for the last 30, 40 years. And he was saying, focus on the cities that want your help and ignore the ones that don't. And he was basically laying out the case that one, it's a big distraction. Two, the voters have to be held responsible
I
for their
brought this
vote.
up to you last time and you disagreed with me. I
I
said it's
did,
not.
I did disagree, but Nev
I
kept
said
on.
it's not our. People have to want to get help.
And the
People have
problem
to.
there, I laid out the case, is that what do you do for the poor single mom who's stuck in the city and can't move? Because that's the argument, is that, look, if they vote a certain way, you get stuck with what you voted for. And I agree with that to an extent, especially in New York City with Mendamni. But what Nev was laying out is that, look, it's too big of a distraction sending in the National Guard to some of these cities. Although when they go into some of these cities, they're making something like 2,000 arrests. You know, in New York, I think during the height of Black Lives Matter and COVID and all the busting into stores and shoplifting and all that stuff, they figured out that there's something like 23 repeat offenders that are terrorizing New York. These people have shoplifted from more stores, assaulted more people. And if you just got rid of those 23 people and locked them up, for a long period of time, crime would drop by like 60%. It wasn't a lot of people.
No, no,
So
no. But
then that's the flip side. Trump going in there and arresting 2,000 people, criminals with guns and all the other stuff that they have, and taking them off the street. You're making the cities a lot safer.
here's what we learned. Here's what we learned, and both of us are New Yorkers. We had to come to the point where it got so bad that we elected a Giuliani. You can't force people to want to get out. They have to want to get out of themselves. It's the biggest mistake we often make. Listen, Democrats socially rigged these cities many years ago. You're talking about generations ago. They rigged it with the social with social systems, with everything. Uh, it's going to take a lot more than sending in the National Guard. You're talking about an educate. When you look at the education systems, man, in the inner cities, the reading proficiency rate is what, 8 to 10% in some of
It's
these schools.
terrible. It is
Math,
terrible.
8 to 10%. You're talking about a much bigger issue than just going in there with the National Guard, unless, and this is where Republicans really should focus moving forward. And this was something Charlie Kirk was doing on the campuses, right? But this isn't being challenged in these places against the school boards, right? If you really want to have a challenge the school board.
Yeah. Well, I encourage people to run for local school boards. I also think we should get rid of the teachers union. I think they should get rid of the Department of Education, and they should add school vouchers. If you did school vouchers across the board, it's so funny that the Democrats are the ones fighting the school vouchers, because Randy Weingarten, the head of the teachers union, does not want any competition for her monopoly over education and funding. So if they did that, we've seen it. I mean, this is what America's built on: competition, free markets, and competition. So if you had a choice where you could send your kid to the local public school and get a great education, or send your kid to the local private school and get not so great education, more people would choose public school. And the same thing works vice versa. So parents should have the option. And what it will do is it'll force the public schools to level up. Thank God we live in a community that has fantastic public schools. Excellent. The education system here is amazing. But if they went sideways, I'd pull my kids out in a minute. The problem is that I'm in California and there is no school voucher program. So I would have to pay cash for that. I would do
Right.
it.
But you could afford that. Most people can't.
Correct.
So, but getting back to his point, sending in and arresting people is a great thing. Look at DC. It's a great thing. But then there has to be a next level implemented. There has to be a next step let's say, and try it out. Look, Tim Scott, the senator, for his First Step program, which helps out Black youth and Black minority and Black kids, and it helps, right? So you implement his system in these cities and see what happens. These two things have to go hand in hand, and I could tell you, it's they have to lift themselves up. And the problem is these cities have so much corruption in them. everybody's on the take, man. When you go to places like Chicago, every alderman, every congressman, everybody is on the take, and lifting these people up is going to take a long time. So I hear his argument. It's the argument I made with you, but I want to go to talk more about school systems. So back to school in Gaza right now, man. And guess who's teaching?
UNRWA, is it?
UNRWA.
Wow. So they're educating another batch of kids to grow up to be terrorists.
Yeah,
That's what UNRWA does.
300,000 at least kids back to school at least.
I thought
And
Israel barred all the UNRWA people from entering the country. So how are they there?
well, they are there because I guess, this this first phase of whatever plan is going on that they've orchestrated there is, where where Hamas is still out of control of that region, hasn't been implemented yet. I don't know, to answer your question. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird one that they're allowing UNRWA in. The UN should be absolutely completely kicked out of any role. I also heard something else that there's 250 Hamas guys stuck in a tunnel on the Israeli-controlled part of Gaza, and the Egyptians and the Qataris are trying to negotiate for their release. And I'm like, what are you saying? Why are they still alive? Why hasn't Israel gone and bombed that tunnel already? What are you doing? I saw them filling some tunnels up with cement. I hope it was the ones with the guys in it. But to let these guys out, are you out of your mind? So, um, if I was in charge of the IDF right now, I would have all hands on deck, find those tunnels, kill those guys, arrest or kill all of them.
I agree with you 100%. And, for people that don't, I just want to, this is a perfect example of what people don't understand. So when Ted Cruz was on Tucker Carlson's show, right? And he said to him about Iran trying to assassinate the president twice, and he did his whole, screech and said, "Yeah,
Huh?
if that was the case, I would want to bomb Iran 100%." And we know it to be the case. Mexico thwarted an Iranian plot with Israel, plot to assassinate the Israeli envoy. There was a plan to kill Enot Kranz Niger, said hatched by the IRGC. So Iran, Mend, is actively trying to seek to kill somebody not very far from us. So this idea that you could keep it there, that Iran, they aren't looking at places like Venezuela as a stronghold, is asinine. It's absolutely asinine, and this has to be spoken about more. Their reach, whether it's China, Iran, Russia, what they're doing in Central America, is so far beyond our comprehension of what they're trying to build there that it's here.
Iran also has Hezbollah bases in Venezuela.
Right.
So, I mean, if you talk about what's going on in our backyard and these despots that are running these countries, Maduro, the leader of Colombia now, is another socialist lunatic who's calling America the enemy and Iran, the good guys. We need to clean up our backyard. Absolutely. This is the administration to do it. I wish that the FBI was doing more domestically than they're currently doing. I mean, you just talked about all the corruption in Chicago and Detroit, up and down the voter rolls. Everyone elected is pretty much on the take. The way to clean that up is to have a RICO case brought by the FBI against all those people, uncover it, unmask it, and then get rid of them. But they're not doing that. They can't even release information on the assassin who tried to kill Trump. We know nothing about that guy. His apartment was wiped. There are no fingerprints in his apartment. The kid had something like 6 cell phones. Who gave him the phones? Who called them? What's the data on that? And Kash Patel's running the FBI. So why don't we have that info? And they cremated his body in record time. They got rid of him in no time at all. And this is the guy who tried to kill the sitting president. If he can't figure out and get to the bottom of it, how are they going to get to the bottom of Ilhan Omar and her immigration fraud, or Rashida Tlaib and her connections to CARE and the Islamic Brotherhood and all the terrorist organizations that are supporting her. How are we going to find out who financed the Mendamni campaign? These guys can't even get the information out on the assassin who tried to kill Trump. And
Let's,
like, and we're talking about Trump. He would you would think he would be the first one to say, I need this released. I want it out. I get me that info. But no.
listen, you're
So
preaching to the choir on this one. I don't understand a lot of things for the life of me. That's one of those things that I've never been able to in my head. It's like I always say to people, stop with like looking for conspiracies when things are happening right before your eyes that really don't make sense. And using Butler as an example is the perfect example of that. It's like, and I was bringing it up at the time in the world according to Ben Stein, saying, listen, you know, this kid was cremated in 10 days. We know nothing about the family still. We know nothing about anything. I knew about, you look at what happened to Richard Jewell, who was not the Atlanta bomber, whose life was turned upside down and ruined. Look at the kid from the Duke lacrosse, not from Duke, whose life was ruined. We know nothing still
is that the
about
guy
these
with the Native
cases.
American thing?
Yeah, Nick Sandman,
Yeah.
and I believe is his name, and the kid's name, and he won a ton of money from all the networks. But again, I agree with you. There's something really fishy going on with a lot of investigations because a lot of it leads to Qatar. And as you brought up, it's one of those things like people don't want to talk about. But this administration in Qatar is a very, let's just call it, peculiar thing.
We keep on coming right back to Qatar. Qatar is the one financing, you could say, like both sides of it.
All roads lead back to Qatar.
All
Pretty much.
roads lead to Qatar. They are the ones that financed Hamas, Hezbollah, Muslim Brotherhood, Al Jazeera, everything that is um, anti-West. That's Qatar. Yet we just gave them some sort of security guarantee. I for the life of me, I don't understand that calculus. I cannot understand what this administration is thinking when it comes to Qatar, because clearly we have the leverage to make them do the right thing and stop supporting all of this, or fomenting and supporting all this anti-West stuff. Yet they don't do it. We just saw a couple of kids get arrested in Dearborn, Michigan, that pledged allegiance to ISIS, and they were going to go out on a mass killing spree on Halloween. And these kids come from well to do homes, some of them Iranian homes. And you would think the Iranians here, every single Iranian that I've ever met in the US, loves America and hates the Iranian regime. They despise it. And these kids somehow, in their cushy little lives, because they all live in a very affluent neighborhood, got online and got radicalized by ISIS to pledge allegiance, fly to Turkey, to cross into Syria to get training. They bought guns, they had ammunition, they had target lists and chat groups where they talked about killing gays and Jews here in America. Um, People love to say that it's the economics. They don't have any bright future, and therefore they turn to terrorism. This case blows that up. These kids had a super bright future. They ruined it because they turned to
Well, look at
terrorism.
New York City. Look at all the campus protesters. Most of them came from money. I mean, most of the people that are at these rallies, have a certain economic standing, whether it's even if they're
Oh, a lot of them are wealthy white kids who got degrees in ridiculous subjects that can't do anything for them. They're longing for reason to live. They don't have real cause. And along comes Mendamni and says everything is Israel's problem, and none of it is your fault. It's
but he's
all
not an
Israel.
anti-Semite. Just according to Tucker, he's not an anti-Semite. I want to thank Tucker for his. He might be a socialist, he might be a communist, but he's not an anti-Semite. It's good to know. I want to thank Tucker for that, and of course he was citing some of the crazy sect
Jew
of
groups. Yeah,
rabbis.
there's some lunatic Jew groups out there that can't even be considered Jewish, but they look it. They wear the black hats and all that stuff. But these people are. It's worth noting why they believe Israel does not have a right to exist. They believe that when God had the Romans kick the Jews out of Israel, the Jews that were kicked out, not the ones that remained there, but the ones that were kicked out had no right to return and build a government. It's not a right of no right of return. It's a right of return and build a government. You're allowed to be there, but there's a term in Hebrew called galus, and that means that you're in exile. And the only one who could redeem you from that
Is the
is
Messiah.
God and the Messiah. So they believe that you're supposed to be living under the thumb of some other government, not
We
a
can do a
Jewish.
whole show about this. I think
We could.
can I be honest with you? We don't have time to do this today, but I want people to know when they're looking at the people Tucker is citing is they're like an unaccredited branch of almost all
It's
Judaism.
tokenism. They're taking
And no,
some
no,
token Jews.
but I'm saying, man, even people that are conservative Jews and people that are leftist Jews, whatever you want to say, none of them. This is the one area they all agree that these people should not be part of the movement. And the reason I want to hold this off for another day because it's in Israel too. So I think this is a very interesting topic of conversation to have. I'm glad you brought it up. I'm not trying to cut it short. I actually would love to have this conversation, especially when Golan is here, because people always assume people with black hats are the standard bearer of Judaism, and they're not.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a sect of Judaism, and this is something we absolutely hate talking about, but we're going to be forced into talking about. So, if Tucker wants to use these people as their excuse, I'm not sure if you actually saw Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly.
No.
It was really good. I mean, he was really good. Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is incredible. First of all, because he retains so much knowledge. So anything he must have a photographic memory, and if he doesn't, he had it in text in front of him. And he was really confronting her about the Nick Fuentes thing. He was confronting her about the Tucker Carlson thing, and he was showing records of it in his phone that after Charlie Kirk died, they were like, "Hey, let's get together and fight the Democratic Socialists."
Who said
Right?
that?
Tucker and Ben Shapiro.
They were talking?
Yeah, he
They hate
called them
each
on the.
other.
Yeah, but he called them. I don't know if the word hate. As Ben Shapiro said, they're ideologically different. But he thought, hey, we could get together after this, and they spoke about going after the Democrat Socialists of America, and he showed the text strand on the show because that's what you have to do these days. Otherwise, people are going to call you a whatever, and then Tucker ghosted him. And, Megyn Kelly said, well, I don't really want to comment on that. And Ben Shapiro's like, but that is your job. Your job is to comment on these things. You can't just basically say I'm out of the game because he was a friend or he's this or that. You have to comment on these things, and even if it's painful, listen to people. We have friends that we don't speak to because they share some crazy ideological views. We refuse to talk to them anymore.
Yeah. There it's funny. I had a discussion with an associate, this guy that I know,
I
and
heard part of the discussion.
oh my god, he's always taking the worst take. This guy he's not a bad guy. He's just an absolute fool, and he doesn't understand or realize that he's a fool. So, his take on Mendomni is like, what's the big deal? Let's give him a chance. Maybe he changed. Those things he said about Israel was a long time ago. I'm like, dude, uh, I told him I don't think he's an honest debater. He takes an extreme standpoint on everything. Defending Mendomni is like a final straw. I'm not a psychologist, nor do I care to try to figure out what this guy's motives are. This is what I told him. I have no interest in arguing with you, just as I have no desire to convince a flat earther that the world is round. I wish you the best of luck, and go on, do whatever you want. Don't have to respond. Of course, he does respond. Um,
Well,
but
yeah.
there are people. There's a lot of people out there like that where they, and that reminds me.
No, no. Can I step in for 1 second? I love the people that say he hasn't, because this is the constant thing of when people say they said that a long time ago, and I'm like, well, 3 months, 6 months. That's a long time. That's not a long time.
yeah, it's not a long time at all. Um,
Sorry to interrupt.
yeah. Anyway, there are people like that all over the place, and I have zero desire in engaging them. Those are the types that I
Well, that's
don't
what I was
feel like
referring to.
they're not honest debaters. They're just playing the straw man in every single scenario where they will take um, like Mendami quotes and somehow say it's not that bad. He was just, referring to he's going to roll up his sleeves and help New York, and he doesn't want to fund Israel. What's wrong with that? No, that's fine. I wouldn't have voted for this guy. I would be pretty alarmed if I lived in New York City and this guy was my mayor.
Yeah, I think it's this is how the argument always gets bastardized. It's like they change from what the river to the sea means, right? So it doesn't mean they want Jews dead. It just means they want Israel gone, right? That's how they shape the narrative of what that means from the river to the sea. So exactly where do you want us placed in this mapping in our redistricting, man?
Yeah.
So I want to get to former Trump economic advisor, and I love this guy, Stephen Moore. He quit the Heritage Foundation today, and Stephen Moore is a very big deal. He's an ex-advisor to President Trump, and you're seeing a lot of fallout now, and from this Nick Fuentes Tucker Carlson thing. And yeah, we bring it up, and I'm not going to stop bringing it up because I'm still like mildly, not mildly, but I'm still, I can't believe more prominent people are not coming out and screaming from the top of their lungs that the only way we could save MAGA is to get rid of this stuff. This is going to kill us moving forward, man.
Yeah. Um, what you're talking about, extricating and that type of stuff, it's not something that can really be done by the masses. And I know you keep on pushing for JD Vance to make some sort of
Not
statement.
just me. You're Erin Molan, who you brought up, right? That's her name.
Yep.
There are many people that are talking about that.
Well, yeah, she brought up a whole group of issues. One of them was uh, JD's close association with Tucker, and the other thing was the way she answered some kids at Turning Point's questions about Israel, where the moral clarity wasn't there. He did not, JD is usually really articulate. He's able to lay things out amazingly well. And in this instance, he kind of stumbled.
Yeah, yeah. If that's the way you want to say it, that's the way you want to say it. But this, I don't believe this could be done by the masses, and I don't believe it could be done by ignoring these people. This is what the left did. I'm using what happened to the Democrat Party when they thought they could deal with the squad. Just ignore them. They're just a couple people. Just ignore. That was whoever was giving them their advice. That's what they did. So when you had the AOCs pop up and Rashida Tlaib's and obviously the Somali Ilan Omar, just ignore them. And they didn't. And look who runs the party right now. So if we're not careful, and that happened, man, in such a short period of time. In 2018, they were an annoyance with a huge social media presence. In 2025, men, 7 years later, they run the party.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. It was something that the Democratic leadership should have dealt with, and they didn't. And you're right; they did take over the party.
So that's what I'm referring to when I say Republican leadership has to deal with this. And I am not the only person that's saying this. I might be one of the louder voices, the louder people saying it. But yes, they need to deal with this because, listen, people like Tucker are really harming Trump's policy. I mean, this is policy issues. They're whatever they're talking about Trump. This is extremely hurtful. I mean,
No,
Tucker
it's his
Carlson
agenda
has
and it's his legacy. It absolutely is. And I wonder how long it's going to take for Trump to actually take some action on this. Because the action that he could take is team up with JD Vance to really squash Tucker. That's what needs to be done.
well, I'm happy to hear you say that. I mean, I'm not doing this because I'm not saying this because or continually talking about. I'm talking about because I don't see another way to preserve MAGA or whatever future movement there is unless we get rid of this stuff. Because this isn't just a danger to the Republicans. This is a danger to America. When you have Tucker Carlson on talking about how he admires, and Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about admiring Mamdani, and you have Tucker talking about how good the Taliban is, and with helping people get sober, or Sharia law. There's nothing bad about Sharia law. You have to really start asking yourself what the hell is going on. And to people like Megyn Kelly, stop taking a layup on this. It makes you look weaker. And when you go against somebody like Bench, and people were people were clapping. It was an open, it was a live event that she was doing. I guess it was a live podcast, and people were clapping for Ben Shapiro. They were not clapping for Megyn Kelly.
Did you see Megyn Kelly interviewing Tucker?
No, I did not. I missed that gem.
Yeah. So she said, listen, Nick Fuentes, and she lists a whole bunch of things that Nick Fuentes has said from whatever, all of the racist stuff that he said and anti-Jew stuff and Holocaust denial, all that stuff. And Tucker admits he said all that stuff. And she goes, how come you didn't press him on it? He goes, you press him on it. Here's his number. You call him. You interview him the way you want to. I did it the way I want to. So basically, he did a softball interview where he allowed, Nick to just spew his nonsense, no pushback, not a real, hard hitting interview when you're interviewing a guy who's a self professed neo Nazi. And when he gets called on it, he just deflects. So I think Megyn Kelly could have done a better job pushing Tucker on that one, but she didn't. And I
And
feel
this
like
is where
Megyn Kelly is straddling the line a
and
bit.
this is what I brought up yesterday to you. When you watch all these different, somebody I was bringing this up on Truth, and it's like somebody's like, "Oh, I didn't see that." I'm like, "Yeah, sadly, I have to watch some of this fringe stuff so I know what to talk about and what I'm actually talking about, and that it's not just me screaming because this has to do always with Israel. This has to do with America too. The fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson both praise Mamdani is not an Israel thing.
No, that's an
Okay,
American thing.
that's an
That is
American
absolutely
thing.
an American thing. We have, MTG, who was what? She was like the queen of MAGA for a while, is now the darling of the woke left. That's how far we've come. That's how far the two sides. And you have,
That's my point.
and
I'm
the
so
same thing with
glad.
Tucker.
Okay, so in 5 months that we've been doing this, I am so glad that the pushback you gave me 2 weeks in, you're finally starting to see what I'm talking about. If 5.5 months ago, you would not have been saying this.
Yeah, well, 5.5 months ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene wouldn't have been on The View
I
and,
told you
and,
this was coming.
and being coddled by Sonny Houston, the slave owner, the descendant of slave owners, and Joy Behar, and all these other really, really sick individuals. So, and you have Tucker interviewing Glenn Greenwald, who's an absolute lefty. So there's one thing in common there, and that is their hatred of Israel, and that's driving them, the left and the right, together, the extremes, right? So you have the extremes on the left, the View and all these lunatics and Mendomnis and all that, and then you have the right, Tucker, Nick Fuentes, MTG, and they're agreeing on the same stuff. And the problem there is that they are fracturing the Republican Party. And people are not sure who to vote for, and that's why the Democrats have a lane to just zip right in.
It's a lane that they should. You're 100% right. I'm happy the way you put it. It's a lane that should never have been opened.
Yep.
And I'm so happy. I'm really glad you
Tucker
brought
has
up that word.
opened a lane for the Democrats.
Yeah, a
That's how it
perfect
could
way
be
of saying
played
it.
out.
And I think we can move on. The last thing I wanted to bring up was this happened in Austria. They found Hamas weapons, cash for terror group against Israel or Jewish institutions in Europe seized in Vienna. Good to know.
So, what the Europeans have been doing for many years was playing nice with these terrorists, saying, just don't attack us, especially after the train bombings in Madrid and all of that stuff. You see the Spanish government coming out really strongly anti Israel, and they're just trying to do it because they're cowards. And they're saying, look, we'll tout, we'll promote, we'll push your narrative. Please stop bombing us. So that is a cowardly act. And they are just betraying their own people in favor of jihadis. I saw a an interesting post that talked about the collapse of civilization in Europe. The average birth rate is 1.3. So for every couple, every two people, they're only producing 1.3 people. So some people have no kids, some people have one kid. Very rarely do they have two kids or more, and the average is 1.3. Meanwhile, the Muslims in those countries are having on average 8 kids. And then they give you the years. By 2030, France will be majority Muslim. I forgot what the year was for the UK. It's going to be majority Muslim. The number one baby name in the UK right now is Mohammed.
It has been
So
for a long time, by the way.
yeah, they're going down that path. Now, I'm not saying that all Muslims are radical extremists that want to chop everybody's heads off, but it's somewhere between 10 and 20% of the population, of their population, and they have billions of people. So you're talking about several 100 million people are radicals. And in general, Muslims in general agree that if you draw a character of their prophet Muhammad, the one who married a 9-year-old, um, you should be killed. They are okay with that. They're okay with women being treated as second class citizens. They are okay with stoning gays and throwing them off the buildings. These are all things that you would think would go against the Western values of those countries, but they choose to ignore that. We're already past the tipping point when the UK is defending Muslim Pakistani gang rapists that have been raping British girls for the last 20 years to the tune of 200,000 girls have been raped by these Muslim rapey gangs, and the government is running cover for them. You're not allowed to talk about it. If you do, you wind up like Tommy Robinson and they throw you in jail. Um, so then it's already flipped. It's already gone off the rails. It's not a hypothetical of what will happen when they gain control. You're already in that scenario where by default they've gained control because the people that are in control are too afraid to stand up to them and call them out for what they're doing.
Well said. And the last thing I want to bring up is so we didn't even really touch on this was the Michigan Halloween terror attack that the FBI
We talked
thwarted.
about that a minute ago.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying we didn't fully get into it, which was that they're actually on it, but this was through ISIS. I mean, this was a direct result of being indoctrinated
Well,
and
so
it
far
being
they only caught 6 of the 13 guys. There were 13 guys in this group. The FBI's been surveilling them for a while. They've caught 6 of them. One of them was at the airport on his way to Turkey, making his way to Syria to get training. They found the guns, they found the ammunition, they found the kill lists, they found the group chat where they were all talking about it. And these kids came from well-to-do families. I think one of them dads is a professor. Well, now they're going to be in jail for a long time.
Well, let's hope they're in jail for a really long time. But I think the bigger picture is this happened in Dearborn, Michigan, man. It happened in America. Okay, this is not a one-off. I really am not saying this to scare people. I'm saying this because it's the honest to God truth. This is not a one-off. When you're talking about this thing, they know how to indoctrinate better than anybody else does.
I think we need to start referring to Michigan as Meshugastan. Dearborn,
You want to give them
Meshugastan.
you want to give them a Yiddish name. You can't figure out an Arab name to give them.
I couldn't come up with any. But it's
Okay.
like Mishistan, Meshugastan,
I don't know, even
Meshuggah.
Dearborn. I got to tell you, even when I hear Dearborn, for some reason, it sounds. I know it's not, but it has that Islamic ring to it. Let's
Well,
go
they've
to.
been marching and protesting there since. Who brought them all in? Was it Obama who put them all there?
It's been going on for years. I mean, this is just one of those things. It's like, listen, this is how all communities are built. Whether it's Minnesota with the Somalis, whether it's Michigan with the Arabs, and this is in the Midwest. Texas has massive problems with this. I mean, this is going on all over the United States of America, and I'm constantly thinking to myself. So every time people say, "Are you America first? Are you Israel first?" I'm America first, but they're here. They're here. I mean, I don't know how louder we could say that. I mean, how many more news stories do we need to see that they're here? And going back to your thing with the Butler shooter, we have no idea where all those phones were linked to. We have zero idea. So it's like we got to be honest about this stuff. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why this is not being publicized more. This should be the lead story on Fox News for 20 hours a day. These stories, and I don't care if Fox is, you want to label them an Islamophobe or whatever they're going to be called, man. This is a clear and present danger to the United States of America.
It is. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Um, the the mainstream, legacy news pretty much runs cover for these stories. We've seen it throughout this entire Israel Hamas war. The way they they play with the headlines, and the headline is everything. Most people just read the headline and move on. Israel bombs a church or whatever. So here they go, FBI foils plot. They don't say who, they don't say where, they don't say when. Like they're just missing out on all the information. Kind of like the way they referred to the MS-13 gangbanger Garcia as a Maryland man. He's a Maryland man. He's not a Maryland man. He's a Venezuelan MS-13 gangbanger. Why don't you call him by what he really is? But they don't. They play with the headlines, and it works really well for them.
Well said. And the last thing I wanted to say is it's been a pleasure doing this with you this week. We miss Golan terribly.
Yeah.
Uh, but last thing that I think is really important. So Ben Shapiro, when he was on Megan, he said, "Do you know how many times Tucker brought up Mamdani?" He's like, "Listen, I did 17 shows on it." He's like, one time, one time he brought it up, and that was to praise Mamdani. That was the only time Tucker Carlson brought up Mamdani's name,
Yeah.
was to praise
Tucker
him.
is not American first. So I'm sorry. Tucker is Qatar first. That's where it's gone. And the proof is in exactly what you just said. How many times has he brought up this Islamist communist who's now going to be running New York City, the biggest city in our nation? And if he was America first, that would have been top of the news all day, every day leading up to that.
He would have been doing extra shows. He would have been like
Nothing,
doing
not a
Tucker
word.
every night.
You know,
No, seriously, think about it. Can you imagine if it was an Israeli candidate running it for if it was an if it
be
was an Israel?
all over it. He'd be
Yeah,
all over it.
if Bill Ackman would have chosen to run for mayor of New York, Tucker Carlson would have had every ex CIA office, everything possible to bring down Bill Ackman. Mamdani, nothing,
Yeah.
zero. So I was very happy. Like this is why people like Ben Shapiro, who can sometimes be a little grating. I'm not. I haven't always been the biggest Ben Shapiro fan, but when it came to DEI, when it came to trans, when it comes to this he's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you really have to hand it to Ben Shapiro, man. That guy is on point. So that was the last thing I wanted to say. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that is it. We are gearing up for the weekend. We got tennis and biking
We know
and
what you got for the weekend. If you listen to
lots of
anybody's
stuff. We're
Fridays,
going to be hitting the gym first thing in the morning, like we do every day. Saturdays are no different. The kids are working out. Stay healthy, my friends. Stay healthy.
stay healthy however you can. And I think that's a really important thing. Is in days like in today's day and age, you know this more than as well as anybody because we have friends, and it's like get out of your house.
But
You
yeah,
know,
that is a very important thing to do. Is that even in these dark times where New York is going down a slippery slope, what you got to remember is that in 4 years, when this is over, you're still going to be you. You're going to have that body. You're going to have your same mental states or whatever. The way you could fix that, the way you could help both of them, is by getting some exercise every single day, eat a little healthier. Hey, I have a challenge for everybody that's listening to this: is try eating one grapefruit every day. And it's not so much the grapefruit that's great for you.
unless you're on
Unless you're on
Lexapro,
medication, in
don't.
that case, eat an apple and banana.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what those things do is it displaces other foods. So if you were hungry and you were going to grab that bag of chips, you're not going to be hungry because there's a grapefruit in your belly. Try that for 30 days. Report back. Let us know how it goes.
You know, another good trick is eat bamba. I know Tommy Robinson did not like bamba when he went to Israel, but talk about something that fills you up that has
My
zero
crew just
calories.
just finished a whole bag of it. It's funny that you bring it up. Trader Joe's has Bamba too. And another side note that's interesting is that Israel has one of the lowest peanut allergies in the world, and it's all thanks to Bamba because they all eat this peanut chocolate Nutella puff pastry thing. It's not even a pastry, it's like a chip. They eat this thing from such a young age that they're introducing peanuts to the young kids, and they realize now, a lot of the allergists realize, oh, this is what we should be doing. We should be introducing kids instead of keeping them away from that stuff. We should be introducing it at a really young age.
We should have like a health and fitness thing once a week because there's only so much I could.
Yeah, we should call it the fit and fresh, fit and fresh.
Yeah, I like that. Daily cheat sheet, fit and fresh with the dude. Okay, we've bored people on long enough. I'm eagerly waiting to binge watch my favorite show on Apple TV, which is called Slow Horses with Gary Oldman. I
I
heavily
haven't seen it.
encourage it.
We're
Sorry,
watching Nobody Wants This.
is that the interfaith show with Christian Bell?
Yep.
I haven't seen it. Just something about her just turns me
I,
doesn't turn.
I, I know, but it's actually it's pretty funny. But
I know, but there's just something about her that is. I find her to be one of those women that I find to be so extremely, even though she's aesthetically attractive, I find her to be unattractive. And there you have it,
she was on
people.
that other show with Don Cheadle.
She's been on a bunch of shows. She's been working for the better part of 25 years straight.
What was that show with Don Cheadle? It was they were consultants.
You
No,
know, you did this at the end of last week when you were like,
I know
who
we
was
have some
the
great listeners who actually pull it up.
yeah, the old guy from
The old
the
fat
old guy
bald guy,
on
and he got it, and he knew exactly who I was talking about. Who was I talking about?
Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner.
And
Rob Reiner
did
is
you
going to go down in history as one of the biggest. Well, he's a meathead. Need I say more?
can I tell you something interesting? I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know if you've seen this the podcast with Bill Maher and Michael Rappaport.
No.
Michael Rappaport didn't say a word. It was like Bill Maher knew he had an ally in the room with him for an hour and 20 minutes. So it was like a Bill Maher therapy session for an hour and a half with one person in Hollywood that he knew that they were like kindred spirits about how they feel about Israel and other things. And it was sort of very interesting. I encourage people to watch it because it was very interesting. I've never actually seen Bill Maher do that because it wasn't like a 1 minute and 10 minute like it normally. It was an hour and a half of him just like talking about these things.
Wow.
So I just sorry,
I said, wow.
yeah, watch it. It's very interesting, and
Uh,
because Michael Rappaport has really risen to the occasion in the last couple of years, so I
I
have to
used
give
to
him a
despise that guy.
everybody despised that guy,
I
and he
just looked
talked
at him as
about
like
that.
a fakakta version of a Beastie Boy. He was just like just a not great version of a Brooklyn kid. But then he stepped up. The show that I was talking about was called House of Lies. House of
I was like,
Lies.
it was like on TNT or one of those. It was on like one of those.
I don't know. When we were living in Canada, we had very slim pickings of what we could watch. That was a show, but it was actually a great show. So
Okay, so there you are. Those are our recommendations. I want to thank everybody that's been listening, everybody that's been following. Go on, get some rest, and anybody out there that's sick, listen, take it easy, okay? Like don't burn the candle at all ends. If you need to take it easy on yourself, take it easy on yourself. I know that's really hard sometimes if you're working two or three jobs because a lot of people are working 2 or 3 jobs. It's like just try to get a little rest, try to get a little enjoyment.
And as Judah said, hey, take it easy, as the boys
No,
back
because
home
it's
used to
easy to
say.
say when people are working 2 or 3 jobs, and people are. A lot of people out there are
Hey,
struggling.
Pangul, you take it easy. You hear me?
So yeah, just
Joey's
try.
Pizza on Church Avenue and Ocean Parkway, couple block at East Third Street. Great pizza in Brooklyn if you're in Brooklyn. And the Italian from across the street hated each other because they had two pizza shops and they were always fighting. Corner Pizza and Joey's Pizza, but their kids were dating. So the two dads hate each other. It was like a bitter rivalry. Anyway, little tidbit. But if you're in Brooklyn, check it out.
There you are. And apparently, if you're in California, eat at Ike's Sandwich, a Subway shop, right? That's
Yeah,
your
our
right.
newest spice sponsor, Ike's Lovin' Sandwiches. They've got the something Reuben. Was it the Reuben? It was
It was the Paul Rubin.
Paul Reuben. Add turkey to that thing, and oh my God, you got pastrami and turkey. It's only 1,500 or 2,000 calories. It can sustain a little village for a week, but it is absolutely delicious.
You know,
And get it on the cheese bread. Did you get it on the cheese bread?
no, I didn't order it yet.
Oh my God,
And
you got to get it on that crunchy bread.
you
It's
told me about this
oh,
last night. What do you think I was going to order a
I thought
sub?
you'd have one already.
So no, no, I already had what I was. Already had the
You look
sub
well
that I was.
fed. I thought maybe you had it.
I what?
You look like you're well nourished. You look like you already had a sandwich. You're all charged up. You got energy.
Yeah, I look. I look.
I hit the gym this
That's the
morning at
That's
6
the most
a.m. and
backhanded
I haven't
compliment.
really eaten
You
yet.
basically just said to me, "I look fat."
No, no, no. I said well nourished.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's 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 a difference. There's a clear difference.
Okay. Can I tell you something? Total side note.
Yeah.
I love coffee. I've always loved
Coffee?
coffee. I got to be honest. I don't. I used to drink about half a pot a day, sometimes a pot a day. I don't drink as much. Barely drink a cup of coffee. I lost my flavor and taste for coffee.
We used to drink, I was drinking 3 Nespressos every day. And my beautiful, loving wife introduced me to coffee creamer. And next thing you know, this thing is like drinking candy first thing in the morning. And I looked forward to it. It was so nice. It's warm like a blanket. It's delicious like candy. It's just, and then I looked into what's in coffee creamer and is absolute seed oil garbage. So I cut out the coffee creamers, cut down my coffee consumption. I'm down to 1 cup a day, black with a pinch of salt. That's it. And I'm not really drinking it for the taste anymore. It's more to give me that
Okay,
jolt,
but I'm not
wake me up,
alone, right? Okay, so I'm glad I'm not alone. For some reason, I think at a
cut
certain
down.
point,
When you make it less, when it's less sweet and less, of a candy, turns out you don't crave it as much. So I've gone days where I just don't drink coffee. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to drink it today. I got something going on. I'm going to have to go somewhere. I don't have time. If I drink coffee, I'm going to be in the bathroom. I don't have time for all that. Just start the day without it. It's a little slower, but it's not bad.
and by
But
the
so
way,
I also like testing myself to see if I could go a day without coffee and what it'll do to my body. Will it give me a headache? Will I feel good or bad? For the most part, it's been pretty positive.
well, if you cut down to 1 cup, of course you're not going to get a headache over not drinking that 1 cup of coffee. And I heard somebody say one of the funniest things. He said, "I don't have a coffee addiction until noon."
What? How do you make your coffee?
I use a pot.
What do you mean a pot?
What?
Like a coffee pot, like one of
Yeah,
those
coffee,
drip coffee things.
Like a Mr. Coffee machine.
You put the
Mr.
liner and you put the powder,
Yeah,
the grinds, and it drips
yeah.
into the pot.
I put the Starbucks in. I put the little white filter in,
You
and
like the Starbucks?
can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
This is, I think, why I lost so much of my taste of coffee, is because there were certain types of coffee that I enjoyed. They got so expensive. The
Mm.
prices went up so much on coffee that I got turned off by paying $13 or $14 for
I
a
thought it's
little
on
bag of
$9 a bag.
for what?
I don't know, coffee. I've been
You
buying
go to
coffee
Trader
from
Joe's, that's why.
Trader
Where
Joe's or Costco. Costco has a
right.
coffee that's a mushroom, lion's
Yeah.
mane, and
I'm talking
coffee.
about if you go to the store and you don't have time for that. Listen, you have a family. When you're single, going to Costco is like the weirdest experience in your life. Okay, if you're single going to Costco, like what do you have no business being in Costco if you're single. What am I
Yeah,
going to do?
I never understood the people that go to Starbucks every morning. I'm
I
like,
agree with
why
you.
wouldn't you just make coffee at home?
I agree with you. The
I
waste
don't
of
understand
money.
what you're doing. You go to Starbucks, you're online, you're waiting, you get that crappy coffee. I think it's part of the ritual. And that's for actually coffee for me. Wine is the same thing. I like the ritual more than the actual drink. So coffee, I love the idea of doing a French press in the morning. We do it every morning. French press coffee for the most part, unless we're in a rush and we use an espresso machine. But French press, you do it, you let it, it's got to sit, it's got to get dark enough, and then you plunge it down, you pour it in your cup. The whole idea of smelling it, sitting there with breakfast, with my 10, 15 egg whites, I like the idea of it. And the same thing could be applied to wine. I don't really like wine that much, but I like the idea of like sitting down with a glass with my wife at the end of a long day and you say cheers and you have a little glass of wine. The idea of it is better than the actual taste of it. And I have good taste in wine. I mean, the Camises, the cake breads,
Okay,
the
nobody
good
cares
wines.
about this, and this is where you're going off the rails.
All right.
You went one,
Anyway,
you like went one step too. You went to ostentatious. You could have just kept it at the low level,
listen,
but
when it comes to wine, actually, the dollar amount doesn't matter. You could get a fantastic bottle for $12 or
I wouldn't
$15.
know. I mean, honest to God, since I stopped drinking 27 some odd years ago, I have no idea if the price of booze went up. I have, it doesn't, I, I could be in the alcohol aisle. I wouldn't even notice. So I have no idea. And by the way, I just want to say to people, it's like, people often think with sober people, when you're really sober, that thing is lifted. That thing gets really lifted, and it's like, it doesn't bother me going to baseball games, it doesn't bother me going to concerts or anything like that. I thoroughly enjoy life, and I don't, alcohol is not a part of it, and it doesn't irritate me or bother me. So yeah,
Great. And
it's
on that
it's
note,
no, I just wanted to say, I think that's listen, somebody wanted us to not talk about politics so much, so I sort of figured at the end of the show we could talk about lifestyle. And not everything has to be about political discussions. When we're on the phone together, we're not often talking about political discussions. So everybody's phone calls should
no,
not be political conversations. Everybody's text
you're
shouldn't be.
literally you'll go insane. I mean, if you just wade into politics all day long, you will go crazy. You got to live life. We're in the middle of building a deck. I'm doing this with the kids. It's fun. Get out, do some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. On that note, I want to wish everybody a great weekend. Say thank you to everybody. You can find us everywhere at thedailycheatsheet.com. That's thedailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.